The howl of wind rattled the windows as Claire Morgan stared at the weather alert on her phone, her perfectly manicured finger hovering over the screen. Outside, the sky had turned an ominous shade of charcoal, promising something far worse than the minor storm forecasted that morning. She glanced up to see David Chen still hunched over his desk, the only employee who hadn't fled before the roads closed. His tie was loosened, dark circles under his eyes betraying nights spent helping his daughter with homework after 12-hour workdays that Claire herself had demanded. "You should have left hours ago," she said, her voice carrying that familiar edge of authority that kept everyone at a safe distance. David looked up, fatigue etched across his face. "I needed to finish the Henderson proposal." "You said it was." The building shuddered as something crashed against the side. Then darkness swallowed them whole as the power failed with a decisive click. "Perfect," Claire muttered, the word hanging between them like frost. The emergency lights cast eerie shadows across David's face as he stood, revealing a man Claire had never truly seen despite 3 years of working together. A father. A widower. A human being beyond the spreadsheets and deadlines. "The generator should kick in," she said, reaching for her phone's flashlight, but the backup systems remained silent. Within 20 minutes, the temperature began to drop, the building's glass walls becoming a prison of cold as the heating died. Claire hugged her blazer tighter, watching her breath form clouds in the air. "We might be here all night," David said quietly, checking his own phone. "No signal, roads are closed, and according to the last forecast, it's dropping below freezing." Claire felt the first crack in her carefully constructed wall of professional detachment. For the first time in years, she wasn't in control. The storm had stripped away her title, her authority, her carefully maintained distance. Now she was just a woman trapped with a man she'd treated as little more than a productivity machine. Both of them at the mercy of elements that cared nothing for corporate hierarchies or deadlines. And the night was just beginning to unfold. The temperature plummeted as midnight approached, their breath hanging visible in the air between them. Claire shivered violently, her tailored suit no match for the bone, deep cold seeping through the building's walls. David's situation was worse. His dash through the downpour to secure the patio furniture had left his shirt soaked through, clinging to his trembling frame. His lips had taken on a bluish tint that alarmed her more than she cared to admit. "Take off your shirt," Claire commanded, her voice carrying the same tone she used in budget meetings. When David's eyebrows shot up, she added, "Wet clothes accelerate hypothermia. Basic survival knowledge." David's teeth chattered as he fumbled with his buttons. "Is this how you—" He paused, struggling with a button. "Talk to all the men you get alone in dark offices, Ms. Morgan." The unexpected teasing caught Claire off guard. For 3 years, he'd been nothing but deferential, accepting her demanding standards without complaint. Now here he was, making jokes while possibly freezing to death. "My bedside manner needs work," she admitted, surprising herself by helping him with the last stubborn button. Their fingers brushed, warm against cold. Then something extraordinary happened. Claire Morgan, the woman whose icy demeanor had earned her the nickname, Glacier, throughout the company, laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a genuine, unguarded sound that seemed to brighten the darkness around them. "What?" David asked, his own smile forming despite the cold. 3 years working together," she said, wrapping her dry blazer around his bare shoulders. "And this is our first real conversation." David's eyes met hers, something unspoken passing between them. "Maybe we needed a catastrophe." Claire felt a different kind of warmth spreading through her chest as she realized the truth. They'd both built fortresses around themselves. She with her demanding perfectionism, he with his quiet dedication. Both hiding, both alone. "Funny how it takes freezing to death to finally break the ice," she whispered, and when David's hand found hers in the darkness, neither pulled away. The storm raged outside as they huddled together on the office floor, a makeshift nest of couch cushions beneath them. David's phone glowed with a photo of his daughter, a gap-toothed 7-year-old with his same gentle eyes. His finger traced her face, a father's love mixed with unmistakable pain. "I missed her school play last week," he confessed, his voice barely audible above the howling wind. "Third one this year." She said she understood, but her eyes. He swallowed hard. "I keep telling myself these overtime hours are for her. But what good is providing if I'm never there?" Claire felt something crack inside her chest. Not pity, recognition. "At least you have someone waiting," she whispered. Someone who notices when you're gone. The darkness made honesty easier somehow. Claire found herself revealing the truth she'd buried beneath designer suits and impossible deadlines. 2 years ago, my fiancé left 3 days before our wedding. Said I was emotionally unavailable. Her laugh held no humor. Apparently, I'm better at spreadsheets than relationships. David turned toward her, his face half illuminated by moonlight breaking through storm clouds. Well, I've got you beat in the emotionally stunted department. My daughter's teacher suggested therapy because I don't express feelings appropriately. Please, Claire countered, a genuine smile warming her face. I made my assistant cry during performance reviews. Twice. Their laughter mingled in the cold air, a strange comfort blooming between them. Then David shivered violently. The temperature still dropping. Without thinking, Claire moved closer, her hand finding his bare shoulder. Body heat. She explained softly, but didn't move away when the shivering stopped. You know what's strange? David's voice had changed, grown tender. I've spent 3 years thinking you were this untouchable ice queen. But you're just afraid. Like me. Claire's fingers tightened slightly on his skin. The walls she'd built after being abandoned, the same walls that had earned her promotions while costing her connections, felt paper, thin now. We're quite the pair, aren't we? Both punishing everyone new for hurts we didn't deserve. His hand covered hers, warm and steady. Maybe that stops tonight. The storm's fury had quieted to a gentle patter against the windows. But the darkness remained absolute. Claire and David sat with their backs against the wall, shoulders touching, a single emergency blanket wrapped around them both. Their breath synchronized without either noticing. 3 in the morning had a way of stripping away pretenses, leaving only raw truth behind. I haven't let myself cry since I was 16. Claire whispered, the confession slipping out unbidden. My father said tears were weakness and weakness was failure. Her voice trembled slightly. Even alone, I can't. I don't feel safe enough to break. David's hand found hers beneath the blanket, his calloused thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. You know why I took this job? He asked, his voice low and intimate in the darkness. The pay is terrible, the hours are worse, but... He took a breath that seemed to cost him something. That first interview, you walked in with such certainty. Like someone who had all the answers. Claire turned to face him, close enough now that she could feel the warmth of his breath. I don't have any answers, David. I'm terrified most days. That makes 2 of us. He murmured, his free hand rising to brush a strand of hair from her face. His touch lingered against her cheek. But tonight, for the first time in years, I'm not afraid. The air between them changed, charged with something electric and inevitable. Claire's eyes dropped to his lips, then back to his eyes. She leaned forward, drawn by a force stronger than her carefully constructed walls. Their lips were a whisper apart when something cold gripped Claire's heart. Images flashed through her mind. The empty apartment after he'd left, the pitying glances, the nights spent working until exhaustion because sleep meant dreaming of betrayal. Her body tensed, and she pulled back sharply. I can't, she whispered, voice breaking. I'm sorry, The hurt in David's eyes was quickly masked with understanding, but not before Claire saw it, a mirror of her own fear. He nodded and gently adjusted the blanket around her shoulders, creating a small but deliberate space between them. It's okay, he said softly. Some walls take more than one night to come down. The first golden rays of morning light streamed through the windows, illuminating the office that had witnessed their night of unexpected confessions. Claire blinked awake, momentarily disoriented to find herself curled against David's chest, his arm protectively around her shoulders. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean. The distant sound of emergency vehicles approached, civilization returning, reality intruding. Claire gently disentangled herself, smoothing her rumpled suit as David stirred. Something tightened in her chest as she watched him wake, his eyes finding hers with the same warmth they'd held in darkness. But daylight changed everything. In sunshine she was Ms. Morgan again, the executive with the corner office and reputation for uncompromising standards. He was her employee. The night had been an anomaly, a temporary insanity born of crisis. They're coming, she said, her voice slipping back into its professional cadence as she gestured toward the window where rescue vehicles were pulling into the parking lot. David nodded, pulling on his now dry shirt, buttoning it slowly. The intimacy of the night seemed to evaporate with each fastened button, each smoothed wrinkle. The mask of employee and employer settling back into place like armor. The rescue team burst through the doors with blankets and hot drinks, efficient and loud, filling the space that had held whispers and almost kisses with practical questions and relief. Claire answered automatically, her eyes repeatedly drifting to David across the room as he spoke with a paramedic. When it was time to leave, they stood awkwardly by the elevators, surrounded by others yet somehow still alone together. The moment stretched between them, fragile and weighted with possibility. "See you Monday?" David asked quietly. The simple question carrying the weight of everything unspoken. Claire recognized it for what it was, not a casual inquiry about their work schedule, but a genuine question about who she would choose to be when they next met. Would she retreat behind her walls, pretend this night never happened, or would she find the courage to step into the terrifying unknown of being truly seen? The elevator doors opened. The choice was hers. "Yes," she whispered, meeting his eyes fully. "But not as strangers." If this story touched your heart, remember that sometimes our greatest transformations begin in our most vulnerable moments. The walls we build to protect ourselves often keep out the very love we need most. Like this video if you believe in second chances. And subscribe for more stories that remind us it's never too late to open our hearts again. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply say yes to the possibility of tomorrow being different than yesterday.